We are going to be talking about primary angioplasty, a life savior in heart attacks. Thank you, doctor, for taking your time and joining up with us. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Jyotirmaya Das. He is the senior consultant in interventional cardiologist here at Fortis Hospital, Vadapaini. Now, he has over 20 years of experience in the industry, and over his illustrious career, he's performed more than 20,000 angiograms, over 6,000 angioplasties, and more than 2,000 primary angioplasties. He's also been trained in chronic total occlusion in Japan, and as well as in TAVI from Hungary, Budapest. Now, sir is obviously really well traveled right now, so let's go quickly into the topic. Sir, so nice of you to take your time. I'm sure that you're really busy and I see you in your scrubs. So let's go quickly into that. So talking about heart attacks, sir, can you tell me a little bit about heart attacks in India versus Tamil Nadu?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So it was a pleasure talking to you on this topic. Heart attacks. If you compare the statistics in India, it almost it comprises of 60% of the population as compared to the Western world. The Western world will be like 25% of the heart attacks, and compared to Tamil Nadu, where we are getting a lot of heart attacks now because of our lifestyle, because the number of diabetic population is more in Tamil Nadu.
Oh.
So as you know that the heart attacks doesn't come with only one underlying factor. So a lot of factors like obesity and diabetes, those are all the contributing factor. So if you compare vis-a-vis, yes, with Tamil Nadu we get a lot of heart attack patients.
That is very fascinating to know. Typically, what age does a heart attack, what age can come to?
See, earlier days it was like they were saying that heart attack comes in an elderly age group, like more than 50, 60-year-old. But gone are the days. We see most of the heart attacks now happens in India is between 30 to 40 years.
Wow.
And we got the minimum age we got in 19 years also. So now age is not at all a criteria. So if somebody says that, doctor, I'm only 25 or 26, how can I get a heart attack? It is not the fact. Anybody can get a heart attack. And the other thing is the females. So females they were saying that there is a saying that like if females will be protected because of the estrogen progesterone level till menopause, but no more. Because of the persistence of diabetes, obesity, even smoking and all those things, we get lot of heart attacks in women, young women also.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, you can't really be saying that you're safe from heart attack just because you're under 50. So I'm going to ask you my next question, doctor. So how do you recognize a heart attack? Like, what are the symptoms?
Most important thing is chest pain.
Okay.
But having said that, chest pain may not be happening to 100% of cases. So if you see the basic, symptoms, it's mostly the chest pain. There may be breathing difficulty. There may be a giddiness. The people may fall down. So that is called a syncope, and there will be profuse sweating. So you are lying down on the bed at the dead of the night. Suddenly you get up with some kind of a discomfort, and you are drenched in sweat. So those kind of situation, and sometimes you may get some burning sensation of the abdomen. So many a times when you get a burning sensation in the abdomen, you try to grab a bottle of Gelusil and you try to take it, or maybe take a pantoprazole, but always all the burning sensation of the chest or the abdomen is not at all. You cannot say that it is not a heart attack. It is a gastric problem. So it should be taken seriously, because if you see the anatomy of the heart and all those things, the right-sided heart attack mimics gastritis. So we have seen patients walking to the ER with the gastritis features, and we do an ECG, we do the routine test, and we find out that there is a heart attack. So no chest pain should be taken into lightly, or no breathing difficulty or no burning sensation of the chest should be taken lightly. And one more thing is that any obese patient, any patient who is beyond 60-65-year-old,
Okay.
those kind of patients and the chronic diabetics, they will not have any chest pain. So they will be having something like breathing difficulty, some throat choking sensation,
Interesting.
some pain which is coming, some vague pain which is coming to the left shoulder. Sometimes we get a pain in the right shoulder also. So it is not necessary that you should have a chest pain to quantify it is an heart attack. So we have something called as angina equivalent, where patient can have some burning discomfort in the chest or abdomen, some throat congestion kind of thing, some pain over here and there. So those are the early warnings of heart attacks.
So yeah, the lot of symptoms that you're saying really differs also sometimes with other conditions and with age as well. So which is fascinating to know. So can you tell me, doctor, like what should a patient do, when they are feeling a chest pain? Like what should they do first?
A patient who has a chest pain should not take that pain lightly. That is my earnest request, because we have seen a lot of patients coming very late to the hospital. So my advice to the common public or my patients or the general public, that any chest pain, please don't take it lightly. You please visit a nearest hospital. Nowadays in this social networking time, like a social networking era, maybe you can talk to your doctor, talk to your family physician, visit a nearest hospital, very near hospital where at least there is an ECG facility. Once you do an ECG, sometimes the first ECG may be normal. So you should not say that I am having no MI or no heart attacks. So in case if your pain is not subsiding, and if the doctor has quantified or you have qualified that okay, fine, you don't have any heart attack, probably you can take it lightly, or else you have to go to a hospital where you have facilities of doing something called as troponins. There is a blood test which can detect the heart attack as early as 2 hours. And second thing is, generally one ECG will not suffice. So we have something called as serial ECGs and serial troponins. So we repeat the ECG, we repeat the troponins, and then we find that it evolves. Actually, heart attack is an evolving situation. So over a period of 2 hours, the troponin will come to the blood circulation. It's a protein which gets leaked from the heart when there is a heart attack, and within 2 hours the troponins can be detected to be positive or negative. So you should not neglect any chest pain, and you should not take that first ECG or the first blood test as negative, even though it is negative. So we need to wait at least 4 to 6 hours to say that okay, fine, now my ECG and now my blood test are normal.
That's actually very fascinating news, because I would not have known that these values are for that. So let me know, doctor, what should a patient keep in mind when they are visiting a hospital? What are the kind of treatment options that are there, especially during this pandemic time? What are the treatment options are available? Which is the best option that is there?
See, when you are talking about pandemic, we are getting lot of cardiac patients, mostly heart attacks patients, because patients who had a COVID or patients post-COVID situation, because now we are almost a year and we are still not out of the COVID situation. So that anxiety, that obesity, that we are not able to go out. So all those things has reduced our activities.
Yes.
So we are restricted to home, work from home culture. So all those things, we are more prone for diseases like diabetes, obesity, and heart attacks. If you see the COVID situation, we are getting a lot of heart attacks as well as stroke, brain stroke, because the clot, which is because it is a more of a prothrombotic situation where the blood starts to clot easily. So when a patient is coming to the hospital, the first thing they should know that they are bringing a patient who is very critical. The patient may be stable outside outside, patient may be looking very normal, but any heart attack situation means we have 3 arteries in the blood circulation. Out of that, one artery should be 100% blocked to quantify it as a heart attack.
Okay.
Now, one artery is completely closed, the blood is not flowing to the heart, and you are bringing a patient. So, by the time you reach the hospital, a lot of time has been wasted. So, in that case, the pumping function also comes down. So, patient is literally in a critical state. So, in that state, patient should know where to shift the patient. I mean, the attendant should know where to shift the patient. First and foremost, they should be very quick in deciding where the patient should be shifted. My advice will be, whenever you are being evaluated outside in a hospital, or any doctor has seen, or any nursing home has seen, and you want to go to a higher center, please go to a higher center where there is a cath lab facilities, where there is a good emergency facilities, where there is a good a cardiothoracic unit in the backup, so that any eventualities can be handled in a very, very responsive manner.
You have talked about primary angioplasty as being an option for, when is that option taken? What is primary angioplasty?
Okay, to be very precise, when a patient is coming with a heart attack situation, one artery is completely blocked. So, there may be blocks in other arteries also, we don't know. But primary angioplasty means we are going to, patient comes with a heart attack situation to the emergency, we see the patient, we do the ECG, we don't waste any time. So by the time we counsel the patient that this patient needs a primary angioplasty, the word primary angioplasty means we are going to treat that 100% block without giving any blood thinner. I mean, sometimes we do thrombolysis treatment, which they do it outside the hospitals also. But here what we do is, we take the patient to the cath lab. We do an angiogram. We see there is a 100% block. And when we see 100% block, we, in the same sitting itself, to the same hand where we have done the angiogram, in the same fashion, we try to pass a wire across, open the block, 100% block, we try to do some ballooning, and sometimes we used to suck out the clots with something called as aspiration catheter. So a lot of clots comes out of the artery, and then we check then we do a repeat angiogram during that time. Most of the time there will be residual block, but some patients are very lucky. We don't need to put a stent, or we don't need to do anything. We just do give some medicines and the patient recovers. But most of the patients, they will require, because artery is like a rubber pipe. Once the block we open it, it may not remain like that. It may try to shrink again. There is something called as recoiling. So we try to put a stent. Stent means it is nothing but a mesh which goes inside and it fixes inside the wall of the artery, so that the artery doesn't fall back or it doesn't shrink, and it will maintain the same the circular diameter, and the blood flows immediately.
Okay. Now that's actually very interesting to compare an artery and give us the metaphor of it being like a rubber pipe, which I thought was, it kind of helped me understand that a little bit better. So talking about angioplasties on that same topic, so in this current scenario, sir, like what are the different types of angioplasties that are performed? So you've talked to me about primary angioplasty, but is there any other type of angioplasty that?
Yeah, generally what happens is, I will give one more information to the public. Whenever there is all heart attacks we can't do a primary angioplasties for all heart attacks. Now a patient who is there in say Tambaram area, and there is no nearby hospital which can cater to that patient. So that patient cannot travel for 1.5 hours here, and then we will do an emergency angiogram or angioplasty. We have something called as pharmaco-invasive therapy. That means they will give some very strong lytic therapy or thrombolysis, what we say. Earlier we used to thrombolize with streptokinase, but nowadays we are thrombolizing with tenecteplase or retiplase. So that can be done in a nearest hospital setup.
Okay.
And then maybe within 6 hours the patient can be shifted to a higher center like Fortis Kodapalli, where we can do an emergency angiogram and angioplasty. That is called a primary angioplasty, but that is facilitated. That means the angioplasty has been facilitated by the medications given earlier. Now sometimes what happens is when they give that kind of a treatment outside and it is not successful, patient will be again having chest pain and ECG will be very sky high. In that case we do something called as rescue angioplasty. We try to rescue the process, and we do something like apart from the primary heart attack situation, we have complex angioplasties, we have bifurcation stenting, we have chronic total occlusions. All those things we do, a very complex angioplasties we do. But sticking to the point of a heart attack situation, primary angioplasty is the golden treatment. The reason why I am telling is, if you compare the policy of giving the thrombolytic therapy and bringing the patient here, and then patient staying in the hospital for 1 or 2 days in the ICU, then you do an angiogram, after that you find some block, then you do an angioplasty. So the length of the hospitalization is more, the cost is going to go up, and while during this time of your waiting period, your muscle starts dying. So the heart muscle starts dying after 20 minutes of 100% blockage. So you need to be really quick.
So quick and being absolutely responsive and knowing that the better the quicker that you get down to a good hospital is ideal for you. So that's a nice thing to know.
And one more thing is that whenever the patient is coming to the hospital in a tertiary care hospital like Fortis Hospital, so you will find 24/7 a senior cardiologist who is there round the clock, so that any emergencies, any patient who comes to the hospital will be taken care of immediately within 10 minutes. And your procedure, and we have a 24/7 cath lab where the technician, nurses, all paramedics, everybody will be available. And you reach the hospital, we start treating, we do the angiogram, we do the angioplasty, and you go back to the CCU within 1 hour.
Yes.
So the advantage of this is that a 100% block we have opened immediately and restored the blood flow. So the heart muscle which was dying, again it gets replenished with the blood. So it starts again regenerating. So the pumping function which was going down, now the pumping function is becoming a normal. So a patient who has come back with a pumping function of say 40% goes home with a pumping function of 60%.
Fascinating. All right. So actually, sir, I believe that you do have a video that we can see in a bit.
I have a video.
So we actually have this really interesting video which Dr. Dash was able to get from a patient. And so you want to take it away and...
So this is, if you see the artery, this is, if you see this, there is a tube which is pushing the blood, I mean the dye, and you can see only the stump. Only the stump is there. So in that case, this is called a right-sided heart attack, where the patient came with an ECG changes and there was no chest pain. This patient had only burning sensation of the abdomen. So we saw the ECG and then we did the angiogram, and you can see that I have passed the wire inside, okay, and now once I pass the wire inside, you can see that there is a little bit of blood flow which is there distally, which was not seen at all. This is the clot which we have removed. You can see that there are small clots, these are bigger clots. This we got it from the tube what we have put it called aspiration catheter. Now these were the clots which were blocking the heart. Now after we took out this clot with that aspiration catheter, then you can see that the blood flow is established now.
Well, that's more clearer actually.
The blood flow is established, You can see the wire here, you can see there is a block here, and then now I will be sending, you can see this is the stent which is coming inside. Okay, now this is a long stent which has come inside. You can see that it is unopened, so it is coming inside, and then we have opened that stent. Stent is nothing but a mesh which is mounted on the balloon, and we have opened it up, and this is the stent. This is something called a stent boost system, which very few cath lab has, and this is a stent boost to know whether the stent is opened well or not. So we have opened it nicely. You can see the nice tubular structure of the stent, and you can see the final result.
Wow.
So now the artery which was 100% blocked has been cleared with an angioplasty. So this is the beauty of our primary angioplasty. This procedure was done in almost like 15-20 minutes. We finished the angioplasty.
That is amazing. Wow, thank you. Actually, it was super awesome for us to see that, especially like how it was with the blood not flowing in, and then after the surgery, how smoothly and how open it looked like. So that is amazing. I've heard this word primary stenting.
Primary stenting is nothing but the stenting what we do in an angioplasty. So during that emergency angioplasty, we put a stent. But there are instances where young patients, smokers, they will come with a 100% blockage. And what you saw, those clots, once we remove that, almost 90% clots can be removed in those cases. And there are few patients, very young patients, who has gone home also without a stent.
Oh, that's good. Actually, that's good to know.
So that is called stenting.
And so typically, what is the range of hospital stay that a patient can expect if?
Yeah. So if the patient is coming with an heart attack situation to the emergency, and we do the emergency angioplasty or a primary angioplasty in the same sitting, so probably after 72 hours, patient can go home safe.
Okay, so 72 hours easily.
Yeah.
That is really good to know. And does having a stent, now obviously because stent to me still feels like a foreign object in the body, so does having a stent actually in any way shorten your life, sir?
No, it will actually improve your quality as well as quantity of life. So if you see the, what is more important in medical science is morbidity and mortality. So a patient who is having a heart attack situation, not being treated properly, taking medicines, and not being angio done, and you don't know how many blocks are there. So that kind of patients, the pumping function starts deteriorating. So the quality of life deteriorates like anything. A patient who was able to walk 5 kilometers now not able to walk for 500 meters also. He gets a chest pain, he gets a breathing difficulty. So life is crippled.
Yes.
So in that situation, and gone are the days where 20 years back I can say that okay, stenting was not a possibility, but now with this third generation stents, these are more thinner and more stable polymers are there, and all are drug coated or the drug eluting stents, because earlier days there were no drugs. Most of the many of the stents were like bare metal.
Oh.
So now cobalt, chromium, platinum stents are coming, which are more malleable. They can go to they can go to any curvature, and the longevity is very good, and the strut thickness is amazing. Like we have stents which is 65 microns.
Wow.
And the other, initially when the stents came, it were like 180 microns. So a lot of developments, lot of research work has been put into this stent, and interventional cardiology has evolved a lot.
That's actually really good to know. And so what is the do's and the don'ts? So somebody has undergone a primary angioplasty. So what should they keep in mind? What's the do's and the don'ts?
Yeah. The basic question what the patient asks after undergoing an angioplasty is, when can I resume my activities?
Yeah.
When can I go for a walk?
Yes.
What I should eat?
Yeah.
What I should not eat? How much of exercise I should do and how much I should restrict. So any angioplasty, say primary angioplasty, we ask the patient to restrict yourself not bed rest. Restrict your activities for at least a week inside your house. From second week onwards, you can go for a routine walk, but not in that pace. Maybe gradually you can increase it's a graded exercise. So at the end of say 3 weeks, you should be able to walk your normal pace. You can resume your normal activities at the end of say 2 weeks, and at the end of 3 weeks, maybe you can take a 2-wheeler out, 4-wheeler out. You can go to your office, and of course, the gym and all those things are little prohibited initially. But there is one more common question which people ask is, doctor, if I ride my 2-wheeler, will my stent move?
Okay. Yeah.
That is very common question.
Yes.
No, sir, because we inflate the stent to an atmosphere of which is more than the tire pressure. So if you calculate we go to 20 atmospheric pressure. In that case, even if you try to pull it out with a plier, you won't be able to pull it out.
Okay.
So it is your own property there. Once inflated, doesn't move. Second thing is what you should do. How much exercise you should do. Well, you should not go for target that 30 minutes or 45 minutes. You should do at your ease. Slowly you should increase the pace. And of course, diet plays a major role. Your low carbs, and you should control your sugar, you should control your pressure, and most important thing is you should not stop the blood thinner tablet at any cost.
Okay.
There are 2 types of blood thinner tablets which we give. We can give aspirin tablet. Some people give along with that clopidogrel, some people give prasugrel, some people give ticagrelor. It all depends upon the cardiologist comfort level and what they practice. But I do practice with prasugrel and ticagrelor, which what we give, because that is the best treatment available. They should not stop the medicine without the cardiologist advice. They should take a proper diet, proper exercise, and a good sleep, a very good control of the sugar as well as the blood pressure. And well, it's a very common question. They ask a young patient, they want to continue with the family thing, they want to have a sexual life. We can wait for 3 months, and then maybe you can resume it.
Okay, so that's actually really good to know. So talking about it, so I'm guessing that even you should avoid getting stressed out about things?
Of course. Stress plays a very, very important role angioplasty, post-angioplasty. Definitely, because heart attacks is not only a single factor, it's a multifactorial. Now, if you see the major criteria and minor criteria, in the minor criteria you see depression, you see the stress level. That's the reason why the young professionals are getting more into these cardiac problems as compared to the other profession.
Okay, so that's interesting. So what are the other preventive measures? Now you've talked about like getting a little bit into exercising, watching your diet, watching stress levels. Is there anything else that people can do to maintain a good heart?
Yeah.
Like to even avoid going into primary angioplasty stage?
So first and foremost is, if a patient is having a sugar, patient is having a diabetes, patient is having blood pressure, that should be controlled. And second thing is your diet. If your diet is erratic, please rectify that, and please maintain a good nutritious diet. And if you are not going for exercise, please do go for exercise at least 30 minutes per day. That will be definitely beneficial. I can't say that will prevent a heart attack, but yes, it will be very beneficial. And fourth thing is you should know where you should draw a line, like your stress level or your depression, whatever it is. So plus what I would say is, any patient who is beyond 35 years who has a history of a coronary artery disease at home, or somebody died of sudden cardiac death, or somebody had a heart attack situation, somebody undergone a bypass surgery, somebody undergone so familial history is there, a coronary artery disease, those people should be very, very careful. At least after 35, they should do at least some few basic tests like ECG and echo, check your cholesterol, check your sugar, check your blood pressure, and at least do a treadmill. So all those things will definitely give us a clue that are you a susceptible candidate for any cardiac problem? Because we never know which candidate or which patient will go for a cardiac problem. We never know unless otherwise we do some kind of a screening periodically. I'm not telling that you should go for any check on a yearly basis, but at least beyond 35 you should do your cardiac checkup with your physician or your cardiologist once.
Okay. So, and if you are below 35, now typically again, as we talked about, most, as you said, like most people, sometimes the heart attack or issues like that can come even when you're 19 or 20 or what precautions should they take, or what is the things that they should definitely go?
Yeah. The thing is, the same applies to them also, because this I told because that area, that age is very susceptible. But if there is a definite history of a cardiac illness in the family, or somebody died of a sudden cardiac death, probably that is the best time to they should go for the routine checkup even if they are young.
Okay.
Nowadays, if you see all the many corporates, they do have a screening kind of a programs.
Yes.
Where the young boys and girls of the age of 19-20 also comes to us for a screening. So that kind of activities will definitely give us a good it will give us a good information that this kind of category, or if you are an obese patient, or if you have a smoking history, or if you have some kind of a stress factor, definitely you should go for a routine cardiac checkup.
That sounds fascinating. I actually don't have any more questions to ask Dr. Jyotirmaya Dash. So I'm going to actually give him with my final question, which is, Doctor, if there's anything that you can leave our audience with, any tip or any last input, what would it be to them?
Well, I should tell that please take care of your heart, because nowadays we are seeing lot of young population coming to us with heart attacks, and not all heart attack patients reaches the hospital. That means the consequences can be very devastating. So please don't ignore any kind of a symptom, and please consult your doctor. No need to consult a specialist at the initial phase. Maybe you can consult your local doctor, get your routine things checked, and then maybe you can save your life as well as save your family and the society.
Thank you, Doctor, so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
your time. So to sum it all up, we are going to make sure that you take care of your heart. Don't forget to walk into Fortis Hospital, Vadapani, if you would like to fix an appointment with Dr. Jyotirmaya Dash. He's available from morning 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Thank you again. Until the next time and until our next talk, have a lovely evening. Take care. Bye.